Welcome everyone to this week in Svelte, episode 143. Today with a guest host, with Stanislav.
Hello, hello.
We're gonna help us go over the changelog because after it will also present Mochi, which is its newer creation. He did a hell of a job to to bring I think it's a very interesting project. It's another like it's a SvelteKit competitor, but I think it's nice to have
Competitor sounds
Yeah,
harsh. It's more like,
it's nice.
more choice is better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Okay, let's dive right into the changelog so that then we can go to the interesting bit, which is your framework. Okay, so we have Svelte 5.56.1 3 days ago. Error at compile time on duplicate snippet declaration tag definitions. So, did we? I don't know if. Yeah, I don't think we went over this last time because it's 6 days ago. So yeah, we actually need to start from here. So there is a feature which is allow declaration in the template. That's a very nice feature. And basically, what this allows you to do, if you ever use const a lot, you're gonna love this because basically there are some times where you just need the script tag for a simple variable, for example, right? Let's say that you only have the button, you have you really want to have this counter component, and it is fine to add a script tag just for this variable, but sometimes it's a bit annoying, especially if you need to have I don't know, you want to just have this variable and you don't want to create a new file and stuff like that. And so with this, as of this new release in Svelte for 5.56, you can do this. So inside the template, you can declare your variables, and you can, let me shut off this. How do I prevent? You can do this basically, which allows you to declare state within. I need to zoom in way more. So you can do this basically, which allows you to basically declare state within the template. So one can be closer to your template, but also obviously you can declare all sorts of variables and stuff like that, even inside an each block, for example. So you can have local variable even inside a snippet. So first thing first, this obviously works as intended. The nice bit about this is that this basically kind of allows you to have component in the same, multiple component in the same files. Not really, but it's still we still want the separation. But if you want to have a repeatable pattern that will have its own state, so let's say that you want to have I don't know, a snippet counter like this. If you do this and you move this here, you can see that basically now this snippet is sort of a component. It has its own state that you can change. So you can do add render counter. And if I repeat this 3 times, this now has each snippet has its own state. And this was not possible before. So you still have, you can technically do a lot. You cannot import, for example, inside a snippet. You cannot, but you can basically have a small component. We are still committed to the single component, single file component philosophy. But this basically allows for very short, very small components to have multiple components into one single file. And you can declare variables here. The nice bit is that you can also declare derived state. So this is basically the same as the old const. So if I do double, I can do this times 2 is equal to double. So as you can see, Oh, because I'm an
I
idiot.
derived count. Yeah.
Count time 2. So like this basically works. So this is basically just the same as this. So if you want, you could do this before double const is equal count time 2. So this is literally the same. Obviously, like you have to write the derived here because like it's a declaration, but it is nicer that you can now do whatever you want. Like you don't have to just use const. This is also interesting because you can technically declare the derived as let and reassign it. So if you want, you can do button on click this and update double is equal to 43. Change double. Yeah, like this. So now you can do like you can change this and then you can change double and then this will still be a derived. So this obviously was not possible before with add const because it was a constant and not a let. So that's nice that you can also do this now. So yeah, I think this is very nice. It's a very like it's something that a lot of people were basically asking for, and so now you can do it. There is a perf improvement. So before, when we were creating an element, we were always using create element namespace. So this ns is a namespace, which is basically a DOM. Basically, when you are creating an SVG, for example, you have to create the SVG with this function, because if you don't specify the namespace in the SVG, when you do document.createElement SVG, you are actually creating like a span basically with SVG. So you had to create the SVG element with this namespace, and the same is true for MathML elements basically. And so as a simplification, I think for the code, we basically always created, even a normal element were created with create element ns passing the HTML namespace. However, this is a bit slower than just create element, and so now there was a small change that actually gained like quite a bit of performance in terms of creation, which is nice. Store current sources as a set for O1 membership checks. So current sources is an array that we use inside Svelte to keep track of what are the current sources, so that we basically don't add, I can't remember specifically now, but basically at one point we searched this array to avoid re-adding the same source to the dependency of something. I can't remember now when exactly this happens, but like that's the reason why we have these current sources. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is like the array of the sources that have been declared in this scope. And so this is basically to, if I remember correctly, is to like prevent the current sources to be added as a dependency of the effect that created them. Again, if I'm not mistaken. The point
is this a runtime like performance improvement, a
this
dev
is a
performance
runtime
improvement, or both?
So like this was at runtime. Now, it was it was an array and not a set for a very specific reason. So like a few months ago, we actually benchmarked it, and somehow for very small arrays, it was coming out on top. So like if you had a very small array, searching the array was faster than looking up a set, basically. However, I don't know why now it is not anymore. So either there was some bug in some browser that made the performance worse for the set. Now we realize that this was not the case anymore, and so now it's using a set. Deduplicate identical hoisted template within a component. So if there are two templates, so when you create a snippet, for example, or when you have the template here, for example, you see that we basically hoist the template creation at the module level, because then this is actually cached. So like when you create the template, the same template is just cloned whenever you are invoking root from the component. So multiple instances basically get access to, like, they don't need to recompute the template. And I guess the performance improvement is that, let's say that I have h1, hi, I'm creating this. If I'm creating a snippet with the same template, a snippet, if I'm creating a snippet with the same template, now it's not recreating them. So if we switch back to 55, you can see that it basically created two different templates. And now in the latest Svelte is not anymore. So it's a very minor performance improvement, but it is a performance improvement indeed. And also makes probably the code a bit nicer to look at. Perf hoist rest prop exclude list as a module scope set. Oh, that's also like, so rest props is also like when you're doing rest props, it's excluding the props that are actually. So I think this only applies to the Svelte 4, like to legacy mode. But I guess if you have something like script, export, let name, and then $$ rest props, yeah, .to string, I don't know, it's fine. That's annoying. JSON.stringify.
Maybe you want to increase the font size a little bit again.
Oh, come on. I hate that it resets, like Vivaldi resets my thing every time. So as you can see, I wonder if, I don't know how to show you this. Let me see. So rest props. Either it was reverted. Like, let me see. I'm curious. The compiler emitted $$ rest props, and the runtime did a linear array.prototype includes. Oh, okay. So like, okay. So I'm wrong. The rest props is when you're spreading something. So that's nice. Also for runes. So if you do button rest, before it was doing something different. No. Okay. Again, we can check later. Let's let's continue. Okay, I'm curious. Sorry, I want to see it. So when you do this, the legacy $ is unchanged. It means the exclude list in the delete property trap. $ props. Rest exclude. So I guess maybe it's when you are doing $ props. Or rest props. I don't know. I guess it's fine. We'll figure out, like, just know that Svelte now is faster. Okay, so let's move to 5.56.1, error at compile time on duplicate snippet declaration tag definition. So at compile time, if you are declaring a snippet and a declaration, or if you are duplicating, like if you are showing, like if you are declaring 2 times the same variable inside a snippet, or if you are like declaring something that was also a snippet name, then it will error at compile time. Parse declaration tag contents more robustly. So obviously, like this declaration tag stuff is new, like it's a new path in the parser, which means that like we need to tune in, like sometimes like, there are a few bugs in the declaration because of this. Correctly transform references to early declarators in a declaration tag. For example, let a $state, comma b derived at .b. So this is a way to declare variables in JavaScript, and I will probably need to zoom in again now. Probably I should just keep the thing open. But basically, like you can actually declare, you maybe don't know that, but you can actually declare variables like this in JavaScript. Like this basically means like I want both of these variables to be let name $state word and let count $state 0. And there was an issue in the parser. So if you moved this to the template, it was not doing it correctly. I think if I move here, it was not transforming these in the right way, I think. Oh, no, that's like when you do derived, like if you do like name dot to lowercase, it was not working correctly. Like you would get this, and I think it was also not transforming properly. Yeah, basically like you are accessing name here, which is a state variable, and it was not accessed with the $get. So if we move to 56.1, it's now fixed, and now you're accessing in the right way, and you don't get the warning anymore. So that was the bug. Avoid spurious state reference locally warning for derived declaration in declaration tag. This is basically the same as above, like it's the warning that you were getting, what I was showing right now. Tolerate white space before let const in declaration tags. So even if you have a bit of a white space, it will still parse them correctly. Prevent infinite loop when a tag expression ends with a trailing slash at the end of the input. When a tag expression ends with a trailing slash at the end of the input. I'm curious. I want to see a reproduction of this. Okay.
Yeah, but what does it actually look like?
Like if you do this.
But is this valid? I guess they don't want the loop anyway. They want it to error, right?
Yeah, probably. Oh yeah, exactly. Like it should not be an infinite loop. It should just be an error, probably. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. More robust parsing of declaration tags with regards of type. So obviously TypeScript in the template is always a bit iffy, but preserve new lines in spread input values when the type attribute is applied after value. Update Svelte URL search params when setting duplicate keys to the same joined value. So there was a runtime error in Svelte URL search params, which is like the reactive version of URL search params. When you were setting a duplicate key to the same joined value. I don't know, ideas about what this means.
I don't know what a joined the value is.
Yeah, exactly. Check references for blockers on servers too. So once again, like I talked a bit about this and a lot of times, but basically when you are having an await expression, we don't await that immediately, otherwise it will cause a waterfall. And we try to delay it as much as possible. And we basically delay the await until you are actually using it in the template. And to do that, we basically calculate the blockers for each expression. So we say, okay, this expression needs this variable, like this promise, to be to be awaited before being able to be rendered, and we wait for those references. And we were not doing it on the server, which led to a few bugs. So now we are doing it. We have 5.56.2 released yesterday. Properly track a fat end node for a sync sibling component. This is actually so I experienced this bug, and it was a bit of a weird bug because only happened in production. It only happened when you were rendering a single component inside another component, and then the component inside were rendering sibling components that were both awaiting something. So like it was a very complex setup that I happened to chance to stumble across. And basically I threw Claude at this bug and I said, okay, please figure out a minimal reproduction. And it created the minimal reproduction. Then I said, okay, in this project, please patch Svelte so that it works. So it created a patch for Svelte so that it worked. It did some changes, but I was not entirely sure about this. So I said, okay, let's do this. Let's like write me a prompt so that I can move this to the actual Svelte repo and fix it there. It created this fix there, which was surprisingly small. Like it basically just added one line. But again, it was a bit of a weird fix. So I said, okay, it's a bunch of async stuff, which I don't understand much about. So I pinged Simon and I said, Simon, can you take a look at this? And Simon actually said like Claude basically like one-shotted the actual cause of the problem. The fix Simon had was more elegant, but like it is wild that AI can now like do all of this, like even in your own project, and like explore node models and figure out what's going wrong. Prevent false positive reactivity loss warning. Once again, like these reactivity loss are basically when you are like reading a variable after an await. If you are actually losing reactivity of that variable, like we know that you are reading that, and it means that that variable will not participate in an effect. We warn you and we say, hey, please don't do that. Like this is how you can do it correctly. However, there were some false positive, and now there are not anymore. Bumping ESRAP. ESRAP is the library that we use to convert from an AST to JavaScript, and there was some fix in ESRAP, and so we're bumping the dependency. Ignore declaration tags for animation directive. So declaration tag for animation directive. I don't understand this sentence. Let me see. Shows error when using the animate directive inside each block. Okay. So basically, if you are using animate, the things that you're trying to animate needs to be the only child of a keyed each block, because that's the only way we can actually animate the element. And it was counting const meta as a new element. And so now it's not anymore. Reject pending async derived on discard. Basically, if there is a pending async derived and the whole batch is discarded, now that promise is actually rejected. Okay, that was it. We have 2 new release for SvelteKit, which is two actually new minor release, which both brings 2 very nice things to SvelteKit. First is support passing SvelteKit config via Vite plugin. So right now, it's not necessary anymore to have a Svelte config. Svelte config was basically created mostly because the language server needed it. So like the language server needed a way to know which kind of options you had for SvelteKit. But now we actually found a way to read the Vite config, like the config you are passing to Vite. And so if you are using Svelte in a Vite project, you can avoid using the Svelte config.js. or .yes, you can just pass the option to the Vite config, to the Vite plugin, and the Vite plugin will actually be able to, like, the language server and the Svelte check will actually able to read the config from Vite. So it's one less config. So preserve multiple set cookie headers on 304 responses. Okay, so like you can actually set a cookie when you're redirecting, which is nice. Preload for anchor elements that were just previously preloaded. So we are re-preloading anchor elements, even if they were just previously preloaded for some reason, or maybe
I think that 304 thing is kind of weird because 304 is not modified, right? So I'm like setting cookies on not modified response. Like, okay, maybe technically allowed, but kind of a really, really weird edge case.
It's always weird when, like, I mean, people will do things. That's the point.
People will do things.
I don't say it in a like diminutive way, because I am people and I do things a lot. Catch load function streaming errors on the client. Oh, that's nice. So if something errors out, it's actually catched on the client. Avoid generating the app env.js module if public dynamic environment variables are not used by the app. So this basically was always generated, but if they are, if public dynamic environment variables are not used, now it's not generated anymore.
This is also great. I think one of the things was that when you build static apps, it would generate like a bunch of files, even though you weren't using them. It would generate like some chunks and some config files that would never be used in some circumstances. So I think I saw an issue for that just yesterday, and it looks like they're patching up some of those. So we're one step closer to just being able to generate one HTML file. That's my dream. Actually, one file.
Yeah. And we have another minor release, which is explicit env vars. I wonder, like, there should be documentation about this already. So let's see. Environment variables. Explicit. So basically, you are used to how to do environment variables in Svelte right now, which is $env/static/private /static/public. So this basically are env variables that are static. So those are actually replaced at build time. So during build time, it will actually remove your variable and just put the value of your variable there. And obviously, like, public and private means private, you cannot import those in the client. Public, you can import them. And dynamic is the same thing, but those are not replaced at build time. So technically, you can actually replace one environment variables at runtime, and it will update directly. So like it will actually like the next time you load the page, you will see a different environment variable for dynamic. However, like, we realized that it was not super nice to work with. I mean, it's not like, it is nice to work with, but you had two different ways of accessing those. You had, like, it was a bit weird. And most importantly, if you wanted to actually validate environment variables, like if you want to make sure that port is a number, you had no way. And if you wanted to use port as a number, you also had to cast it and stuff like that. And so we have explicit environment variables now, which can help you with that. So you can now get $up/env/private and $up/env/public. And now you can basically, you need to opt in. It's an experimental feature, one of the many at this point. But then you can create source.env.ts file or env.js file. And then you have these define env variables. And this basically allows you to define private and public env variables in the same place. And you can also validate them here. So first thing first, you don't have the public prefix anymore. You are just defining them as public. And you can also validate them. So you have the validate function, and you can use valibot or zod or whatever you want to validate them. This means that if you want to have, like, obviously they will be like, basically you can also cast them. So like you can validate that it's there and that is a number, for example, and it will actually cast them to a number. And you can also specify that this is static, so this will be replaced at runtime during like at build time, which means that if you do something like this will actually be tree shaken away, which is nice. You can also add a description, and this description will actually shows up in the JS doc. So like if you hover over a variable when you import the variable, it will show up the description. And if I'm not mistaken, right now you don't have to import them differently anymore. You just you actually get auto completion for the variables. So like you just, even $up env like public and private, they will just show up as actual variables. So you don't have to import env and then access it. So it's very nice. So play around with it, report any bug that you found, and
I think this is huge. Honestly, this is like one of the most asked questions in the Discord, and it's also one of the things most people, I would say, get the wrong, or not wrong, but like it's not clear like when should you use which combination, and I think having it more explicit.
The trade-off is still there. So like you still have like public and private and static and stuff like that. But it is nice that now they are in the same place. It is now that you can import them in the same way. You don't have to import env before. It is nice that you can validate them. You can cast them, which is nice. So that's nice. Remove check for Svelte config.js before running sync. So there was a check that checked if you add Svelte config. Since now it's not necessary anymore, it's not, and you get it. Generate a placeholder tsconfig JSON to squelch sync time warnings. Oh, that's nice. Allow use of $up env public in service worker. That's nice. So you can
that's good. I've actually run into this and had to hard code stuff.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Service worker.
That's nice. Okay, let's see. We have a new release of the Svelte MCP, which is support for declaration tags. So now if you are using, like, if your LLM can actually generate declaration tags and it will not fail. We have a new release of Svelte package, which is just a bump to Svelte to TSX to support TypeScript 6. We have 2 new releases of the extension, which, I mean, is to support declaration tags mostly. Supports CSS completion in nested style tag, supports Svelte 5 declaration tags. Prettier use editor config settings, prevent / in expression affect HTML folding, properly handle probes with the name slot inside Svelte 5 snippet. That's nice. Take into account component references when calculating snippet hoistability. Use local name for marking bindable props used. Don't show inline type hint for component inside snippets. Correct occurred typo in Svelte boundary on error description, just in the editor description. Support reading Svelte config from vit config.js. Yes. And mark optional member with a trailing question mark in completion labels. Okay. Let's see. We have new release of prettier support for Svelte 5 declaration tag. New release of SV. Import user session types from betterout instead of betterout minimal. So now when we are creating with betterout, Drop ESLint compat now using include ignore file of ESLint directly. Community add-on template import expect from vtest. Community add-on template now pins SV and Svelte SV utils to a version range instead of latest. Oh, that's great. Also, because you know why this is important? I think if you use latest, it's worse for security, because if SV or Svelte.js SV utils get compromised, obviously you get pwned too. But I think it's also worse because if anyone is using latest, you cannot unpublish a package. So like, let's say that we release a version of SV or Svelte.js/SV utils that I don't know, has some malicious code, and we want to remove that package so that nobody can download it. If there is even one person using latest or star, you cannot unpublish it, which is annoying. So better than now. Svelte check obviously support reading from vitconfig, update dependency, load config. This is a new package that basically this could be used by someone writing a bespoke build system, but basically this would unlock the ability to load the config either from vitconfig or from svelte.js.ts. So if you are interested, you can just install this package and load the config with this package, and it will default to Svelte config. Otherwise, it will. I see Stanislav.
I'm taking notes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually something. Config is actually something I've had issues with, so I'm welcoming this.
That's nice. Let's see. We have 3 new releases of Svelte ESLint parser. Oh, this is also another big change. So Baseball Yama is doing a lot of work, and what it tried is trying to build the parser. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know if this is the one that is building, but basically he's trying to build a compiler in Rust for the specific reason of making parsing ESLint parser faster. And so he released this. So if you want, you can use parser experimental ts sys hook 1, and this should speed up your ESLint rules. So
will this actually use Rust then, or is this something else?
If I'm not mistaken, it is using Rust. I might be wrong. Actually, let's go check the repo. Can I? Here it is. Because I'm pretty sure he was working on something in Rust. I don't know if this is the Rust thing that he's talking about. Let me see. Experimental. Speed up the type aware lint of Svelte file. Your ESLint config must already list blah blah blah.
You should just check what the repo is written in, what language. Is it Rust?
Yeah, probably. Send the parser to a shim, a pre-existing property of type aware, not specific to the hook. No, there's no Rust. So unless it's harder. I don't know. I'll ask Baseball Yama, but he's basically doing all of this to speed up your linting. So, be thankful. Send a kudo to Baseball Yama, which is doing a lot of work for this. Let's see. We have a new release of language server. Always the same thing. We already saw those in the extension. Same thing probably with Svelte to TSX. Yeah. Oh, and Stanislav just fell off. Oh, right now, okay.
No worries, I'm here.
Welcome back, Stanislav. We have a new release of ESWrap, which was basically what I was talking about before. As you can see, there are a couple of keep on the same line when return type annotation wraps into multiple lines, add parentheses for as or satisfies expression inside unary this binary operands. Keep required parentheses for mixed this and this logical expression. Okay, I think that's it. Now we can switch to the interesting bit, which is Stanislav's. So you might be asking, and there's actually a question asking here, what is Mochi? And Stanislav is here basically to talk about it. So let me hide my screen and unhide his for a second. Okay, so here's Mochi. So what is Mochi? Mochi is a new meta framework for Svelte that Stanislav wrote, and he's going to present this to us today, and we're going to comment on it. Yeah, like the stage is yours.
Thank you, Paolo. I didn't make like a super formal presentation or anything, so I'm gonna try to take it a little bit. I have some scrappy notes that I've taken. So yeah, like you said, it's essentially like, if you boil it down, it's a meta framework. It's an alternative to SvelteKit with some some architectural differences and some differing trade-offs, and that's, I think, what is the most interesting, and that's what I think we should be like talking about here. And I have like a little demo, so I will show kind of what the differences are. But just to take it back one step, is like, what is even like kind of the point of this? So like I work at the publishing house, and that means we do like journalism. We do like online journalism. So that could be anything from like text articles, like short text telegrams, all the way to like video and also like interactive experiences, kind of choose your own path, games, gamification, visualizations, where we're trying to like explain a complicated concept in a way that is like broken down for the reader. And performance is very, very important for this, and not in several parts. One part is that unlike something like an app where a user might go like to Facebook every day, like people might visit like our journalistic sites once a week or once a month, and so no matter like how long it's been, we want to deliver like something to the user as soon as possible. And it's also kind of like a safety net, the place I work with, they have some of the biggest sites in several countries, and that means that when something happens, when there's like some sort of breaking news or there's some sort of like natural disaster or something, people go to the news sites that they frequent, and that means that like it has to be like very reliable and very, very like light to load, right? So even if there's congestion on the network, we don't want any like spinners or any kind of stuff where like the main content isn't like coming in really, really quickly. And I kind of always felt like the modern web, like especially stuff like Next.js and to some part also SvelteKit, are very like focused on this other use case where you're building like the next Facebook or something. And it's okay if there's like 15 spinners when you load the page, and it's okay that you're shipping like 1 megabyte of JavaScript. And this is something that's always not rubbed me the wrong way, but I haven't been really happy with the situation because it's felt like there's no alternative. And then we recently started working with Astro, and I'll bring up the Astro page here. And Astro is also like a meta framework, and they're kind of like they kind of have like a different view on things. Like instead of making first of all, it supports like many different languages. It supports like Svelte and React and Vue, and they have like their own like Astro templating, which is like pure server-side template. And they have like this approach that I'm talking about. Like everything is very, very lightweight, and like when you actually need some sort of interactivity, like when you need something to be like, let's say, hydrated because you want some sort of JavaScript to run on the user's browser, then you say like, okay, I want to opt in, this component is going to hydrate, but everything else is just normal server-side rendered content. And we've been working on this with Astro for about a year now, and we love it. Like everybody in the team loves it. I don't love the fact that it has all these other features that we don't care about. Like like I don't really care about React. I don't care about Vue. I don't care about their own templating, and I don't care about the like all the Vite-isms, like as I call it, like stuff that is like comes because both SvelteKit and Astro work through Vite as the bundler, and that means that you get all of the Vite kind of stuff that the way Vite set it up. and that's just kind of the way it works, like how to import fonts and stuff. And even though I like Astro, I'm like, okay, but it would be so cool if there was something like Astro, but for Svelte specifically. So like really, really tailored to Svelte. So something super lightweight where I will only write Svelte and it will be super performant and it will be hopefully faster. And I could even experiment like maybe with not using Vite at all. And that was kind of the starting point with this. Do you have any questions so far, Paul?
Okay, not exactly question. Something that like a point that I understand your like Vite. Like there are a lot of Vitism and stuff like that, but I was also thinking like I think, and I mean it might sound like React all over again, but I think one of the interesting bit is also the ecosystem that brings with it. You talked about like this is how you load font, right? Like to load font in Vite, you might need a Vite plugin, and obviously you can write your own, and it's probably easier than ever now. But like, at least from your like experience, did you actually found like Bun to have a bit of this ecosystem? Is there? I assume that probably there is even some way to convert between a Vite plugin and a Bun plugin, for example.
Yeah, so Bun has maybe we'll get into it more later, but Bun has like a bundler,
Yeah.
essentially what Vite is, and Bun has like loaders, like hooks that you can hook into. And so far, I don't think we're using any external loader packages because it was pretty easy to do the things that was needed, like loading fonts. But I think that that's definitely something that you can like hook up. But I'll continue a little bit because I want to talk about these like Vitisms, because I think like, we love Svelte, we love Svelte Kit. I love Svelte Kit too. And I think the problem, if there is a problem with Svelte Kit, is trying to be like everything to everyone, right? You should be able to deploy Svelte Kit everywhere. Vercel, custom server, GitHub pages, static, it needs to cover all those cases. So static, dynamic, pre-rendered, like this auto mode where it renders some and does some pre-rendered. And this is fine, but this has trade-offs in the API design. Like for example, you just cannot do certain things. Like you just, for example, you just cannot support certain features. Like let's say you want to support like web sockets. Like you just can't because you cannot support them on static deployments. You cannot support them on Vercel. You need like an expensive third-party real-time service for that. And I always thought this was like kind of like annoying because like if we just took a step back, if we just said like, okay, let's actually add some restrictions. Let's just say like we're only going to deploy on like stateful servers. Then suddenly you can get WebSockets for free. You can get like a database adapters for free. You can get caching for free, image transformation you can get all of this stuff like completely for free that you would have to like pay like Vercel to do like image transformations for, or you would have to pay Pusher or some other real-time service for. So instead of like this, what I really wanted was like, okay, if we just say, okay, we're putting some limitations on it, but you get everything you need. Like, do you want like to build a real-time chat app? You don't need any packages. You don't need any services. You just deploy your Mochi app or like your Bun app, which is what Mochi is based on, to any host that supports Bun, and that's it. You're done. Like there's nothing more you have to pay for. And this toolkit can never come to SvelteKit because we're talking now. I know we're talking about like Vite extension API. Is that what it's called, Paolo?
The environment API.
Environment API, so that you can like inject the things from different environments, and I think that will make it easier to support stuff, and also like make it compatible between dev and production, which is another problem. Like, how do you reproduce your production environment in dev when you have all these third-party services?
Yeah.
But if you just say no, but we're just going to use Bun, it just works, like, right? And that's why I think I was so like drawn to the idea of building something that is not just a little bit different, but like very different than something like SvelteKit.
Yeah, I think, like, to be fair, I think the adapter pattern which SvelteKit uses to deploy everywhere, it is something that it's kind of an unsung hero of SvelteKit. Like, I like it very much. Like, what you're saying is absolutely true in the sense that, like, it does constrain you a bit in some API design, but it's also very powerful. Like, the idea that you can just, okay, now I'm deploying in my, like, VPS server, but oh, now I am getting a bunch of new users. I don't trust my VPS server anymore, and I want to deploy, I don't know, with Vercel or with Netlify, and I can literally just do that by uninstalling one package and installing another. That's wonderful, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you didn't tie anything to the deployment method. So, like,
Yeah.
if you had, which
Yeah.
is like very easy, quite easy to do. But yeah, I also think there's also like 1%, which is like you and I both live in EU, and we've had this like discussion about big American clouds and what they're doing with all the users' data. And it's actually very hard to assemble a stack with like real-time databases, like compute, that is not tied to the US in some way. It's actually very complicated because you need to do some trade-offs just to.
I think in general, the point, like the real point, is that, like, I think this is more of a problem with serverless rather than like SvelteKit specifically. Like, obviously, like, serverless brought a lot of advantages because you can scale up and down as you want. You don't pay anything extra for the thing. Like, you get a lot of niceties with serverless, but you are also kind of tying yourself to use an HTTP adapter for your database because you cannot run native at the edge. Use an external service for your authentication and for your like stuff because, like, for your real time, because you cannot use that. Use an external service for your Redis, your caching.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some niceties in, as you say, to just have one single running server that you know that will be like you will have in memory and all of that. So there's definitely like some sense of relief, even when, like, sometimes it happens to me. I don't know if you're bad, like when you are building something and you have to think of all these things and you have to think, okay, how do I deal with like real time? I need to do these, and all these services are also scattered all over the place. So as you say, like, there is the problem with the devs. Like, how do you bring that same experience to the dev world without actually connecting to a service real time? How do you test it? How do you do this kind of stuff? So when like sometimes it happens that you just have a very simple project that doesn't need all of that, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna just put everything in memory and screw you. And it is very relieving when you're there.
Yeah,
I don't have to take all of that.
Hard things become so easy. But okay, let's look. So I'll try to illustrate. So this is the site. It's mochi.fast is the domain if you want to try it yourself. And I'll try to like illustrate what I mean first with the like islands first architecture. So I have a little illustration here on the very first intro page, which tries to like explain what islands actually like do. So on this page, or rather on a page, you might have some stuff that is kind of static. So let's say maybe the header is static, like nothing actually happens in the header. And maybe the main only contains some text, and the footer maybe contains just some text that will never change during the like page load. So but maybe your sidebar has some like dynamic stuff, and I'll show an example of that in a second. And maybe you have some like user profile box that is like supposed to show the user's actual login status. So what you can do with Mochi then, or an island first framework, is you can say, well, okay, keep these boxes just like as server-side rendered. Do not ship the client-side part of them at all. And let's just hydrate the sidebar and the user profile. So that means that if you go into the network inspector and you check like, okay, what JavaScript are we loading? You're going to see the JavaScript for the sidebar, and you're going to see the JavaScript for the user profile and nothing else. Well, you'll see the Svelte runtime, but other than that, you're not going to see any of the stuff here. If we compare this to how SvelteKit does it, well, you would ship the front end for all of these components, even though The header will never actually change. You will still ship the front end for that, and it will still hydrate, which has a small, but it has some cost, especially if you have a lot of elements on the page. And I'll show you like an actual example here. For example, on this page, so this the demo site is actually, of course, built with Mochi, and it actually also is running in dev mode, because I really want to like show to people kind of how the things interact here. So you can see here we have a little dev toolbar, and which you can like open and close. And here you can actually see for every page what islands you have on the page. So on this page, actually the demo, this actual thing that you saw here, it is actually an island. So I can see here, I have an island here that I want to hydrate because I want this button to work, right? If I didn't hydrate the front end, if I didn't do it with like CSS or something, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I can even like locate the islands. I can press a button here and you see it kind of scrolls to the island and highlights it. I can also see what other islands exist, like for example the sidebar here on the left, and the reason it's hydrated is because you can actually search here. So you can actually, there's like an interactive part which wouldn't work with just HTML. And again, I can also see, okay, the sidebar actually accepts some props. And you can see here what props does the sidebar accept, and the sidebar accepts basically like, you know, the available config sections, which it has to do in order to be able to hydrate. But everything that is not hydrated has no client-side footprint, and it makes the page very, very lightweight. You can also see here, this is a new addition, is you can actually see the different bundles that you load. So these are the bundles that are actually hydrated, and I can see that like, oh, the islands demo, this component adds 1.74 kilobyte to the page load. And this is something that I at least really miss with SvelteKit. Like I feel like this is the dream I've always had. But with SvelteKit, it's kind of like you can't do this, right? You can't say like, don't load this thing and don't load that thing. You have to load everything. And so this is something for people who really care about the performance. This I think is really important, and you can do some nice things here, like you can hide the Svelte parts, and you can see like just what your code adds into the page. And you can then track down, for example, if you see some chunk, there's like, oh my God, why is the sidebar so huge? You can see like what kind of other stuff it pulls into its chunk, and try to find any kind of JavaScript that you maybe accidentally included that you didn't intend to.
That's very nice. And by the way, like, I mean, like, I know that like the thing that you are missing in SvelteKit is the ability to not load a component. And I agree. Like, I think that like it is nice. But speaking of this, like, there is some work going on for the DevTools, and I think these DevTools are actually very, very nice. Like, I think we should take inspiration for this.
And I just want to show also, like, since we talked a little bit about real time, I just want to show. Let's see, where is I think it's called chat. So I just want to show you how easy real time is. So I have a chat here that is powered by WebSockets. And then let's say I open another tab here. Here we go. I'll have them both open. And then let's say I write in this other tab, hello too. You see it all synced up. And this is free. This is just included. And it's not even really like Mochi. This is like Bun. Bun has a built-in WebSocket API. Mochi just like wraps it, makes it like nice to use. And then that's it. You know, very, very, very simple. Yeah, and somebody, was it you who wrote? Because this is actually running on the production side. So
no, it's not me. So
you can actually, if anybody writes here, everybody else actually sees it. I don't know, maybe a little bit dangerous here, but
yeah.
But it gets it's in memory only, so it's like when you redeploy, the chat disappears. Okay, but then I wanted to also show you like the development experience and like what it actually means to with all this like islands and hydrate. Like, what does it actually look like? Is there any questions before I do that?
There is only one thing. It's not actually a question. It's more of a statement, which I don't think is like. I just want to address because
Sure.
Mike said micro front ends when you were talking about islands, which I think it's actually a different thing because micro front ends basically allows you to like have multiple front ends on a page. So like it's like an architecture that basically allows multiple teams to work on a specific part of the application. So, for example, you might have a team that is solely focused on the user profile. I don't know, like if it will ever happen, but and the nice thing about micro frontend is that basically you share the dependencies. So and you can also basically like use multiple frameworks and they just mount into the your main page. So like it's some sort of things. In this case, it's a bit different. Like the concept of islands is just as Stanislav was saying, the fact that you can literally like ship a static shell and then only hydrate part of a page. So like in this case, the sidebar is hydrated separately from the rest of the page, and it means that you can either not hydrate it if you don't want, like you can ship it as a static part, or you can also, I don't know, hydrate it only when it's visible, hydrate it only when like you're scrolling to the page and it hydrates and stuff like that.
And the concepts are, they kind of go into each other a little bit, and they are not like just like two different things. There's more like a how to say, like a gradient. Like for example, you have super duper micro frontends on the right, where every team has their own build steps and repos, and you just kind of like compose things together. And then you have like Astro, which is like, yeah, you can have a React header and a Svelte footer and a Vue main content, but they're all in the same project.
Yeah.
And then you have like Mochi, which is like, yeah, you can hydrate individual parts of the page, but it's all the same Svelte runtime. You cannot have like two different Sveltes, right? They share. In fact, this is really funny. Let's see if I have a demo. What I want to say, if you want to come check this out, is like, look at these demos. There's like a ton of demos here. There's docs, like normal documentation. There's like coming from SvelteKit, how to like do different things that you would do in SvelteKit in Mochi. But there's also a lot of cool demos. One of these is like this shared state demo. This one is really funny because this is two separate islands. These two buttons are two separate islands, and they are using normal state, like a global state, not global, what is it called? Like universal state, to communicate between them. And it just works. I didn't do anything, right? I think this is so cool because this is technically like two separate Svelte hydrate calls, and that just listen to the same signal, and they are synced up perfectly. So I think it's really cool. All right, let's do the like.
Sorry, I'll just interject a bit because I think it's something interesting. Because, for example, I actually knew about this, but while reading the documentation, it kind of catch me off guard, and it's the fact that like as like islands are the islands architecture. Something that you might not realize is that there's no client-side routing, so when you click on a link, it's actually refreshing the whole page. So like it's not a single page application experience that is leveraged by the fact that you are not hydrating the whole page anytime. So even if like the pages are like generally lightweighter because like they don't download the JavaScript for the whole thing, you just like download the JavaScript for the components that you use. Just think something that I think it's important to remember when you are reading the documentation, because sometimes otherwise it might catch you off guard.
And I have some thoughts about that. I don't want to go too deep. This is like advanced topic, but there is some cool things you can do with view transitions. So like, for example, many people don't know that you can actually maintain component state between two pages using view transitions. Like if you have a playing video and you want it to just like stay while you go to a different page, you can do that. You don't need any like libraries or spa. There are some edge cases to that. We don't need to go into it. There's also like some ways of doing a spa like, but without essentially inserting HTML from a new page load. But and that's something that I'm like thinking about now. But for now, there is an open PR for doing like really, really good view transitions.
Mhm.
So like first-class view transition support, you just drop in a view transitions component and you get nice transitions between pages. That's the kind of experience I want now. And then later, if we identify specific like edge cases, we can try to do something else. Let's try the onboarding experience. So I'm just going to copy this quick start, and it's gonna be quite similar to the way the kind of the Svelte setup is. So I'm going to call this week in Svelte. And then it's going to ask me like, okay, what sort of template would you like? There is a minimal template, which is just kind of hello world, and there is like a demos, and I'll just quickly show what the demos template would give you. So the demos template will give you this is also linked here under demo sites at the end of the front page. There's basically like a couple different demos for like interesting use cases that I wanted to like implement. So for example, we have a Hacker News clone, and this Hacker News clone actually only uses deferred server islands, which I will briefly talk about what that means. But that means there is no actually JavaScript on the page at all. So this page has just a tiny inline script to boot the server the deferred islands, and that's it. So you can see here, like for example, you can see that the comments load in separately from the main page load, and you can also see that they're cached. So like after they load slowly the first time, they load really, really fast. And I wanted to build this because I wanted to show some examples of how you can do things that are interactive, even though it's some people might say this is more static than SvelteKit, but I want to show that no, it's actually not. You can do exactly the same things, and sometimes you can do it even easier. So the Hacker News demo is one thing. Then I have this admin dashboard, which has like real-time data streamed in. It's fake. It's just like dummy data, but just to show you kind of. And it also shows like some examples. Like this is a server island, which you can see it being loaded here when you reload the page. And then we also have like a normally hydrated island that just needs to load some extra data. And then finally, there is like a Tailwind example, because I know that people cannot live without Tailwind today. And even though I don't use it, I thought, okay, it's a hygiene factor to support Tailwind. This is just a very simple, very, very simple to do app, but it's styled with Tailwind. So if you go in here, you will find the Tailwind, the classes. I don't know if we can easily find them here. Yeah, here you go. Flex, item center, gap. So this is Tailwind, and that works too. All right, let's do the minimal demo, and there we go. And then I'm gonna just follow the instructions, just the same as kind of you would do in with SvelteKit. So it's gonna open. There we go. Can you still see my VS Code screen?
Not now. Like right now,
No.
I'm seeing
there we go. Now you can see it, right?
nope. I'm still seeing the website.
Just a second. Can you see it now?
No, I still see the website.
Which website? The Mochi website?
Yeah, like the hello world of the app, basically.
The Hello Mochi, right?
Hello Mochi, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, this is that.
That's
Huh?
I think you said like, do you see my VS Code, right?
No, yeah, sorry. This is the minimal template you're seeing now.
Yeah.
So let's have a look then what that looks in VS Code. Just I'm gonna bring it up. It's complicated when you have multiple VS Code windows. There we go. Gonna zoom in. Okay, so things are a little bit different in Mochi. Like I mentioned, it's a little bit of a reimagining. I call it the Bizarro SvelteKit, because it's like a little bit like SvelteKit, but it does things a lot differently. Like for example, the way you boot it is more like a classical kind of like application, like something like Express or something. So you have an index file, you call this like mochi.serve.
Mm-hmm.
to start Mochi, you specify the port, how the development mode works, and then you specify your routes. And the routes, as you can see, they are not folder based. The routes are programmatic. So if I want like a foo route here, I would do something like this, right? And then I would create a foo.svelte, and I said hello foo, and then I would go to /foo here. It might be a little bit small. And then it will be hello foo. So there's no, like, you don't create any files to create routes, but you do specify like a starter component. So and all of these starter components, so here it's the hello world one, these are always server rendered only. So you always start with like a static component at the root. So if we go into hello world here, what we can see here is that this kind of has like a few things. It loads some fonts. This is not how you would normally load fonts, but this is because I didn't want to include the fonts in the like package for the minimal template. Kind of stupid to include like font source fonts. Yeah. So we can just kind of like strip away some of these things and leave just we can leave just like very, very, very minimal. I'll just take all of this away. I can show you this because currently the leaves are hydrated. So the leaves are, you're probably not gonna be able to see it now because I removed all the styling here, but yeah, you can still see the leaves. It's these things that are coming down here. That's because it's like driven by JavaScript. So it has to be, and you can see here then if I zoom in, that messes up the leaves a little bit, but you can see here that we have one hydrated island, it's the leaves. Because if I were to remove, this is what I mean with this hydration. So you add like a tag, essentially. You add this Mochi hydrate. If I take it away, there's not going to be any leaves because
it doesn't.
It doesn't run the client side
inside that component.
No, there's no on mount running. There's no like there's nothing being driven by the browser. Good. So let's kind of show these different modes and. Let's start by just keeping the page completely empty, and I will create a file. I'll call it just counter.svelte, and I have like a little pre-made file because I'm not as good at coding live as Paolo. But this is just like you click it, and then it's like count is count. This is exactly the basic example, and there's a little bit of styling, and then I'll just go ahead and I'll import count. Counter, and then I'll load it. And would we think that this would actually work now or not? Paolo, what do you think?
I was copying a message from things, so I missed the code that you wrote. So if you switch back, it will not work.
It will not work. You're right, Paolo. And the reason it doesn't work is because we haven't included the client side script for this component. In fact, we can even see it here. There is no JavaScript on this page. It's a lie in dev because in dev there is the dev toolbar always. But if you were to build this for production, there would actually be no JavaScript here whatsoever. But if I do Mochi :hydrate, now suddenly it works. And we can also see if we inspect the page and we filter by JavaScript, we will be able to see here that there's going to be a chunk here that is a little bit hard to see when so zoomed in. I don't think I actually can, but there's going to be here we go. Here is the actual like JavaScript for the counter component, and then we get a few chunks which are the like kind of Svelte runtime, which is something we can't escape, the signals runtime, and then we have the actual components that we use. So this is cool. Okay, and I also talked a little bit briefly about deferred islands, and I'm gonna talk about what deferred islands are. So first, you have these like you have this way of like rendering something, which is it basically like instead of rendering just SSR, we also render like, oh, here's a script. Let's hydrate this component. If you do Mochi :defer instead, that will actually move this component tree into a separate request. And Oh, now it's going to be hard mode, Paulo. Is this gonna work when I click it or not?
That's difficult now.
This is hard mode.
Yeah. So so I think like it's still hydrating. To me, it should work.
Let's try it. It doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? I will explain. So as I said, when you do, instead of Mochi hydrate here, you did Mochi defer. And what that actually did is that it moved the counter component into a separate HTTP request. So instead of loading like the client, or rather, instead of doing anything, you don't even load the SSR here. There is just where this component should be. There is just a little boot script. I can see. If, let me try if I can like illustrate it. It's a little bit tricky, but there is like a little. There's this little Mochi server island tag instead of where the actual component, and then we actually fetch the component as a separate request. So if I open this is like a different URL to a special islands endpoint that loads the component. But if we look at the output, it's just the SSR output, right? It's not hydrated here because you see here, this is only the button. To hydrate it, we need to also add the hydrate directive. And now it works. And now if you look at what was delivered in this like island endpoint, it will be the actual component, the SSR for the component, but it will also be like a bootstrap script that will actually like hydrate this component. This might sound very complicated. I will just say, first of all, this is exactly how Astro does it. Astro also separates like components that are just hydrated on the current page and components that are loaded essentially in a separate HTTP request. And why would you want this? Well, it is for one reason, and that's cacheability. So let's say that you have like an article page or any kind of page where the content is static, and you could really cache this forever. You can cache this for hours or as long as nobody updates the content in the CMS. But then you have like a tiny little bar up in the right corner that shows the current user if they're logged in or not. And let's say for some reason you don't want to do it client side, you want to do it like server side because you need to go to some service and check something. So instead of invalidating the whole page for every user, you can just say, well, this tiny thing up in the right corner, this is a server island. It's going to be a separate request, and that separate request doesn't have to be cached because it's just HTTP request. You have the main request, which is like the main page, and then you have this like separate HTTP request that can be like a part of the page. But because this one can have different cache headers from this one, you can essentially cache the main content, but still invalidate or have different cache rules for any number of like smaller pieces of your page. This is a very, very, very powerful.
I have two questions. One.
Yeah.
First, obviously, this doesn't work if you disable JavaScript because you have the bootstrap part that is basically doing the fetch request and inner HTML in the value, right? So this doesn't work, and obviously like it means, I mean, it's probably not a problem because it will be cached, so like it's very small, it's inline JavaScript, so you literally have to disable JavaScript to not make it work. So like
yeah,
it's absolutely like it's fine. It was just like a random idea. And the other question that I have is more of an observation, and it's the fact that like technically this can also work the moment you have some load, like because right now with async Svelte, which you also get inside Mochi, you can technically load something inside the component, right? So that could also be a reason why defer.
This is actually my next demo, which is sorry, I wanted to show the like, okay, what about data loading, which is like the number one thing people will actually ask. Okay, so and I will show you. There's two ways. There's two main ways to do data loading in Mochi, and I'll show you, and then I'm sure you will have some feedback about this. So like I kind of wanted to like, you know, I want to give people some flexibility, right? So I want the data loading to be pretty flexible, and so I kept something that was like quite similar to server load functions, and I will show you. So what I did was what you can do is you can on a route you can pass something called server props, which is like an async function, and from here, am I doing this wrong? You can. I'm just gonna load some some Pikachu, some Pokemon data here, and I'm gonna return it. Here we go. So I'm loading something from the Pokemon API, and I'm returning it, and then inside here it will be a prop in the route. So I can do or I guess const Pokemon equal. Sorry. Like I said, I'm not as good at this as Paolo. Equals props. There we go. And then I'll do like I'll just like show the request here. And there we go. So that is one way of doing it. I think this is a great way if you want to inject stuff like the user's login status, or like something that's a little bit more central, maybe that you don't want to keep in the component. But because we also because we're server side first, and because we have what is called experimental async or whatever it's called, we can do it in the component too. So instead of doing this, what we can do instead is just do const Pokemon data equals, and then we'll just fetch the data here. Let's do that then. So it's a little bit tricky here. There we go. And then let me use this data instead. I'll remove the server props from here, and I'll try loading the same data at the top of the component. There we go. And let's see how that works. Yeah, that works just as well. Let's just make sure we got the right. Yeah, so we see that the things change when we change the Pokemon. And what's really cool here is that what can we do with this data? Well, one of the things is that we can pass obviously the data to props as props, so we can say like, let's pass, let's make like a Pokemon component here. Pokemon.svelte, and then let's do const Pokemon data. Let's say that one comes from props, and then let's render this Pokemon component instead. There we go. Let's pass Pokemon data, and then inside here, let's just do the same. Oh, let's see if this even works. Actually, this would be nice. There we go. Let's see. We're still printing that. Yeah, there we go. So now we took the data from this like top level component, we passed it into this other component, and because they're both server rendered, nothing really happens. There is no like you don't actually get the data anywhere in the like HTML. So if we went into the HTML now and we looked at like, is the payload actually here? There's not going to be anything. So it's going to be very, very lightweight. But if we were to do like Mochi hydrate here, that changes the situation, because now we need some way to actually pass the data from the server side to the client side. And for that, we use devalue. So the same thing as SvelteKit uses. And now, basically, I did Mochi hydrate, and that basically creates an island. So now I'm saying, okay, this is also hydrated, and you might need this for various reasons, right? If it needs to be truly dynamic, I think I actually have like a demo of this here, which is like this is like just quite a similar demo where you can load different Pokemons. But for example, here I want to like be able to filter the stats. Right, to be able to do stuff like this, then I need this part at least to be hydrated. So I think actually in this demo, only the stats component is hydrated. and everything else is static. And that means we do actually have to ship the props as part of the page, so that Svelte can then like hydrate with the same data. And you can see here that we're sending a bunch of props, but and you can also see how much it is. And this is like way too much, right? Just for one component, 183 kilobyte. But you actually don't need to send all the data unless you plan to use it. What I can do is I can just say, I'll just send the name because that's all I'm using. And then I'll do this. And there we go.
You need to pass like, you need to do name is equal Pokemon data.name.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. It's good to have a pro. There we go. All right. And now this this payload thing isn't read anymore, because now instead of sending 183 kilobytes, I'm sending just 22 bytes. I'm just sending the name Pikachu. So this is a great also example of like how the dev toolbar actually like helps you. So now I saved my users from downloading like 183 kilobytes essentially that were just wasted, and instead they get like a super lean page that is just a few kilobytes large. So this is just an example of how easy it is to mess up, and also how easy like Mochi makes it to fix the problems. And I could talk for like probably another 2 hours, because there's so many different features here. There's let me see if I can just point out one or two cool things. We have stuff like MD-Svex support. So if you want to use MD-Svex, that is already available. You can do stuff like forms. I think we have. Let's see, forms. So you can do forms just like you can do in SvelteKit. Not exactly, but quite like similarly. You can do like, and all the kind of stuff that you would expect, like cookies. One thing that you mentioned it briefly is like we can load stuff when you actually show it in view. So here on this demo page, you will actually only load islands that you have scrolled into. So if I scroll, you see it's like now it's loading the next island, and now it's loading the next island. But actually, if you never scroll down, first of all, you don't have to fetch that data. Second of all, your users don't have to load it. So you're really like maxing out the performance. So with some care, and with this debug toolbar, and with the base of Mochi, you can make, I think, pages that are way more performant than something you could do with SvelteKit. It requires work and discipline, but if you care about this like super duper quick performance, I think that this is also what makes it a little bit different, right? It's like not everybody's gonna care about it. Some people are gonna say, "Oh, I don't care. I don't even look at my bundles," and that's fine. You might be running a website that like is some admin dashboard or something people log into, and they do it as part of work. They don't really like care if it takes an extra second or two.
Actually, I prefer if it takes more time to load. So
yeah, they can take some coffee. But I mean, like a lot of use cases that I see for Svelte is like, I built my portfolio page, or I built like a landing page for something. And I'm like, whoa, like this is, SvelteKit is a massive overkill for something like that. And in fact, it's probably a little bit slower than it has to be, because you're hydrating everything and you're doing the whole spa thing when it's probably no reason to. So I think, like I said, this is experimental. This is a new thing. There's definitely bugs, and what I really need is just basically for people to try it out if they're interested, and report issues. You can obviously make like a GitHub issue, but we also have a Discord, so you can click on this link at the top with this little orange banner. We have 19 members. It's very early. You're getting in at the ground floor, and I will personally tend to your bug report if you report something. And yeah, I think that's it. Is there any questions from you? Or
there are a few questions and comments in general. First thing first, there is like a comment from Mike. I cannot highlight, unfortunately. I need to copy and paste. and they wanted you to do file-based routing. Like they said, like you should do file-based routing, and I think it's something that I also kind of lamented, like not lamented really, but like I said, yeah, I'm missing this part of SvelteKit, the fact that I have to like set up the root and then create the component feels like double the work. I think, like you specifically said, you didn't like that, and I'm pretty sure that technically you can write your own file-based routing if you want.
I definitely don't mind it, and I see kind of where the ecosystem is going. It's like almost expected. It does add like non-trivial amount of complexity, and I am trying to rein that in a little bit. But it's like 0.5 or 0.x now, right? And I think before it reaches 1.0, I want to reevaluate basically every decision, including this, and see if this is something. One thing that I am gonna do is like a integrations API. So basically, being able to hook into specific parts of the framework, like the build process. So we already have something very similar that is built for like runtime, which we call filters. And filters is like, it's basically you can have a function that modifies the runtime functionality in some way. Like let's say you want to dynamically select the cross CSRF content types. You can just pass a function. I don't know if I can find like a better version. Well, this is another one, trusted origins. Like you can just dynamically make a function to modify this at runtime. You can dynamically modify the HTML shell. And here we have, you can even, for example, now modify the preprocessors that run. So I'm imagining like an extension like this that would allow you to basically add the file-based routing just on top.
I mean, what I guess, like what I was saying before, is that technically you can just do like, you can use glob to fetch all of your like components in a specific folder and create routes based on that, if you really want. So like,
for sure,
like it is doable. Once you have the config based, you can just write code to build the config. So yeah, but I agree. There's also another comment which is about ban, and which is Surgeon also that said, honestly, I have an internal battle with ban. I would have been sold if this was Dino. Also, isn't Vite getting better now? Is the bundle really that fast in comparison?
So first of all, I just want to say that I started building this before the like latest bun drama started with the Rust rewrite and stuff. I still think that I don't think the Rust rewrite is going to be like a big problem. I think there's going to be some issues and then it's going to be fixed and bun is going to keep going. I don't see a problem with that, but I do understand that some people have ideological problems with bun. It's not just the bundler. I actually even have a page here that you can click on the front page. Like, why do we even use bun? And there's a lot of stuff that we use. Like, it's not just the builder. It's also like how we actually parse islands and find them and modify the like payloads. It's like in the next couple of weeks we're going to be shipping. I'm going to be shipping bun like support for image. So like you will be able to do something, for example, that you still cannot do in SvelteKit, to just point at an image URL and say, give me this image, but 500 by 500 in the WebP format. This is still something you cannot do with SvelteKit. Since bun includes an image transform function, this is just built in. So we just wrap that and we get it for free. So this is the kind of stuff. This is why. And Dino does not have a lot of these APIs. Dino has a really, really bad bundler that is like really, really unmature. Like it doesn't have a lot of config. It doesn't have any like image processing functionality. It doesn't have HTML rewriting. So it's just not equivalent. Like bun also has like built-in Node and built-in Postgres and SQLite. There's just a lot of stuff that you get for free. And I really, you could rewrite this in Node or in Deno, but you would have to add like, a bunch of packages basically. And this is the thing that I really liked about Bun, that it is actually like a self-contained runtime. It actually has everything you need built in, and no other runtime has that today.
Yeah. There's also a bunch of compliments. So it looks really great. Always good to have competition. What an achievement to beat the framework. There is a question which is, any shortcoming that you wish to bring from SvelteKit?
How do they mean, like from?
Like if I assume the question is like, is there something from SvelteKit that you would really love to bring to this?
There's tons of things that are the same as in SvelteKit, like for example, like I have copied, stolen a lot of the API design for a lot of the things, like just the way like middlewares work. Like it works exactly the same way, and the way like enhanced forms work, they work extremely similarly. So like. Kind of how you would do like progressively enhanced forms. I use an attach instead of a use action, but other than that, it is very similar. Just because attach was a little bit more modern. So I'm using a ton of the SvelteKit API design already.
No, I think like the idea was like, is there something that you wish to have already bring from SvelteKit?
That I would wish was in SvelteKit, you mean? Or
no, like if there, I really wish I could do this that is in SvelteKit and is not now in Mochi, and I would love to bring it to Mochi too.
I think the hot module reloading situation could be improved, because like when you say no to Vite, you also have to do hot module reloading yourself. So now the hot module reloading is on the level that it will like reload the page, but it will not maintain the state on all the components, which is not as big of a problem as you think, because like once you change your kind of way of thinking about which components are dynamic, most of your components are going to be static. They're going to be server rendered, and they're going to need like a reload anyway. So it's in practice not a big problem, but it would take, this is something that would be nice. It would be nice if hydrated components could just hot module reload, but this is a bigger job that you get for free with Vite.
All right, I think that's it. Other compliments, a bit of a like discussion on ban and stuff like that, but more or less I think that's it. Thanks for joining to the stream. Thanks for building this, because I think it's definitely interesting, and it is another option. So like, if you have a situation just like Stanislav, where you have mostly a static website with some sprinkle of interactivity, feel free to try out Mochi. I will definitely will. And thanks for joining me. Thanks you for joining us in today's episode. Thanks for sticking for 1 hour and 40 minutes. And I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you guys probably in 3 weeks, because next 2 weeks will be very busy for me. I'm traveling around. I will be at a couple of conferences. So if you are near Amsterdam, please join us at JS Nation. If you are in Barcelona the week after, please join me at Dev Barcelona. And thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next few weeks.
Thank you so much, Paolo, and thanks everyone for joining.
Bye. Bye.